Welcome to another Real Estate Talk Show, featuring highlights of the best interviews from our national real estate radio show. Here's another property expert.
Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au's on the line once again. G'day, Terry.
Hi, Kevin. How are you doing?
Good, mate. How's the travelling around going?
It's going very well, seeing all sorts of great parts of Australia, and also from the property investment perspective, seeing lots of places that should be on my radar screen as in terms of hotspots.
Oh, okay. So you're just getting there and seeing the differences. So we might see a few new inclusions, do you think, on the next report?
Well, that's right. One place I looked at only yesterday was Nowra in New South Wales, which is a very solid regional centre with lots of future growth prospects. So I look for places with diverse economies primarily, and Nowra's got lots of different elements, including a naval base on the magnificent Shoalhaven River that runs through the middle of Nowra. And it's very affordable prices in around about $230,000 for typical houses. So that's good buying. I'm also seeing a lot of sea change locations on the south coast of New South Wales, and the interesting thing about that is sea change generally is quite a poor performer on capital growth. Notwithstanding the magnificence of the settings of many of the places that I'm seeing. I guess it's because there are a dime a dozen. There's so many of them around Australia that they need to have something special to stand out. And it's significant that in Queensland, the worst performers on capital growth in the last 5 years have been the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, which are the two prime sea change locations. So, yeah.
Terry, I wanted to keep talking to you about prices. There's been a few headlines out this week about foreign buyers driving prices up. What's your take on that?
Well, I think we currently have a situation of government by tabloid media, really. We've got the federal government reacting in a number of ways to sensationalist headlines in some of the more tabloid newspapers around the country about price bubbles and chronic housing shortages, and none of it's particularly accurate. But as a result of that, the politicians who are sensitive to headlines have brought on an inquiry into prices, which I think is quite ridiculous because there's nothing unusual or extraordinary happening with real estate prices at the moment. But they've also, on the run, changed the foreign investment guidelines in response to headlines suggesting that somehow foreign buyers are forcing up our property prices and forcing them beyond the reach of first home buyers. But
it was late 2008 when we were on the edge of a recession and economists were predicting a property crash that they turned around with very little or no consultation and then relaxed their rules anyway. And now they're turning around and changing them again.
Oh yeah, it's policy on the run, and it's not based on any substance or substantive research. Foreign buyers are definitely in the market, but they're only really active at the top end of the Melbourne and Sydney markets, and they're so few in numbers that they cannot logically have an impact on real estate prices across the board. There's been some big sales of multi-million-dollar properties in Sydney and Melbourne by buyers from China and elsewhere in Asia, but they're relatively few in number and certainly aren't impacting on mainstream real estate where 90% of our deals happen.
Well, last time I looked, foreign sales made up about 0.75% of Queensland's property transactions anyway. That was the whole of last year.
Well, that's right, and it speaks about a wider problem that we have in real estate at the moment. I think the problem is misinformation via the media, and we've got federal politicians now starting to react to that. The major sales that have happened involving buyers from China have been given a lot of publicity, and they've been sensationalised, suggesting that they're having a huge impact on our real estate market, which isn't true, and it just adds fuel to this notion of a housing price bubble, which is nonsense, really. I mean, all we have at the moment is a normal market where in the last 12 months prices have risen, according to various measures, across the country about 12 or 13%, which is really just a fairly normal average year. Nothing extraordinary is happening in our real estate markets at all, but for some reason media has decided to paint it as some kind of extraordinary event, and as a result, we now have an inquiry into why prices are rising when they're really just doing what they've always done.
I think the challenge for the governments at all levels is to open up more land, create more new properties. That's the basis of the problem. It's all about supply and demand.
Well, yeah, but I don't think we have the chronic shortage that has been suggested by the Housing Industry Association, for example. They have a definite political agenda and have been pumping out propaganda week by week for years now, claiming that we have a very serious shortage. And my response to them would be, well, if we have this shortage and there's pent-up demand not being satisfied, why do their members, who are the builders and developers, not get out there and develop and sell more? Because the residential land exists. It's already in the hands of their members. The major developers control vast areas of land in the form of master planned estates, for example, but they're drip feeding to the market to suit their concept of supply and demand. And if there is such a shortage, I would assume they would be releasing it in greater numbers, but they're not. So I just think that some of these claims are a furphy designed to coerce government into making favourable decisions for developers and builders.
Terry, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, Kevin.
Terry Ryder on the road, and you can see Terry and get his latest reports and find out exactly what he's doing at his website, hotspotting.com.au.